So have you guys heard of anyone like doing dispensary licenses now for Canopy? Are you guys familiar with?
I've heard a few people talking about getting one. A couple of our customers have gone that way.
Any advantages, disadvantages? Because I thought it was a lot of red tape with the dispensary licenses.
It seemed pretty straightforward. It was.
I mean, and a lot of the structure is business.
And still operate together. So I think that's what it's closing up, is that you no longer need different representation, a different number of patients.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a lot more red tape. And I've talked to a couple people. It seems like half a dozen people I knew who were going to be investing in becoming a dispensary. And some surprised me because they weren't collabing with anybody. What are you?
Sorry.
You're a store owner.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I had the conversation with my lawyer yesterday, actually, and she was like, do it.
Did she say any of the benefits or well?
Because you eliminate the cohabitation issue that some caregivers have. It's kind of the same. It's $5,000 for the licensing, and we're about there anyways. Actually, more really. It's unlimited canopy. Yeah, there's
What about like cameras and like?
She was saying it's halfway. It's like in the middle of what we had, like adult use and the medical program.
Sort of overlapped.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the middle. She said it's not as cumbersome as
cameras or vice versa.
Yeah, the camera requirements are up there. You need to have like a
storage
panic button and stuff like that in a store. But she said it's not as cumbersome as the license or the licensing for adult use.
Cool.
So
So have you guys heard of anyone like doing dispensary licenses now for Canopy? Are you guys familiar with?
I've heard a few people talking about getting one. A couple of our customers have gone that way.
Any advantages, disadvantages? Because I thought it was a lot of red tape with the dispensary licenses.
It seemed pretty straightforward. It was.
I mean, and a lot of the structure is business. A little bit.
Yeah, you can kind of
condense.
You could be multiple caregivers, the way I understand it, and still operate together. So I think that's what it's closing up, is that you no longer need different representation, a different number of patients.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a lot more red tape. And I've talked to a couple people. It seems like half a dozen people I knew who were going to be investing in becoming a dispensary. And some surprised me because they weren't collabing with anybody. What are you?
Sorry.
You're a store owner.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I had the conversation with my lawyer yesterday, actually, and she was like, do it.
Did she say any of the benefits or well?
Because you eliminate the cohabitation issue that some caregivers have. It's kind of the same. It's $5,000 for the licensing, and we're about there anyways. Actually, more really. It's unlimited canopy. Yeah, there's
What about like cameras and like?
She was saying it's halfway. It's like in the middle of what we had, like adult use and the medical program.
Sort of overlapped.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the middle. She said it's not as cumbersome as
cameras or vice versa.
Yeah, the camera requirements are up there. You need to have like a
storage
panic button and stuff like that in a store. But she said it's not as cumbersome as the license or the licensing for adult use.
Cool.
It just, when we were talking about it, just made sense.
Yeah.
Especially as a store owner.
To start growing.
How long are they leaving those applications out there for people? And is it unlimited?
I thought
at
unlimited.
first it wasn't going to be unlimited.
Yeah, because I just kind of ignored it because I thought they just kind of like increased the size. But she was like, no. They kind of like quietly, they just opened it up.
Got it.
Yeah, so it just makes sense.
How does that impact smaller caregivers then, like single? Will it change the market, you think?
I
wouldn't think so. If you have a niche, I wouldn't think it should.
Yeah, I was trying to think of like maybe
what
the negative would be.
As you start getting partners involved and being able to work together without dealing with the
Just the nuances.
the collective issues.
Properly structuring it. Yeah.
So there'd be really no reason for a group of 2 or 3 caregivers not to become a dispensary at this point. They would probably be shut down or asked
be cheaper.
to.
Business structure wise,
I
you
think
wouldn't have to run 8
yeah.
businesses if you had 10,000 square feet that were broken up.
$8,000,
You could have one entity that you're not paying insurance for 3 or however many entities you have and doing the same business,
That's the
accounting and all that.
How about write-offs?
One day,
One day at a time.
We can dream.
Well, yeah.
It'll flip from
crazy.
no write-offs to all taxes for the federal government, I'm sure.
It's wild. Yeah, we're kind of, our first couple of years were really tough. We were another business and we transferred over to Living Matter, and we're finally seeing what taxes are and what we can write off and what we can and how much gets thrown through your LLC onto your income. And I'm like, just overwhelmed with it. It's pretty intimidating. But if you have a good accountant and good lawyer, you can structure it. And I'm sure this dispensary license helps too. But at the end of the day, just be smart with your money. And, you know, there's a lot of companies too. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. They're like packaging, insurance, and your payroll and other things. And then they'll charge you like a fixed rate per month. And you can write that off as COGS. But you're technically insurance you can't write off. And I'm wondering, like, my accountant's like, that's very not good to do for just kind of like raising a red flag for the IRS to come get you. Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff coming out, and it's kind of good to talk about and put out there because, like, we use Pete Dufour. I don't know if you guys use him for an accountant, but he's very strict with how we do everything, and we're basically not trying to get audited, and we're trying to do everything by the book because there's a lot of people cutting corners. I feel like it's just smarter long term, you know.
Did a podcast with Emerald City Finance.
Oh yeah, that was
she
amazing.
had mentioned.
She's our
she's a great
bookkeeper.
gal.
She's awesome.
Oh, great.
She is really good. I'm very lucky to have her as our bookkeeper. She's amazing.
She did tout some things about being straight and narrow on what you're doing on your finances. She said it wouldn't be a good idea to break away from that. Don't try and find the loopholes.
Yeah.
Just go pretty much straightforward.
Yes.
Because
don't do it.
although it's random, of cannabis companies in the past, about 80% of them end up with that random audit.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I
Especially
mean,
after
really,
this year,
that doesn't seem so random to me.
All that money that came across the table.
Yeah.
It's like,
and now there's a new department, and they
Yeah.
finally like told us what they were. You're allowed to, even though if you guys read through it, it was kind of still pretty vague with what we could write off, and I know that was just giving them something in writing to go start their audits on, you know. So it's coming.
Yeah, she said it was moving from out west. She's been watching it through like California, Colorado, and soon this way.
Yeah.
Yep. Will there be a time when you'll be able to get write-offs? Is that only when it would be federally legal?
I don't know. Yeah,
Or you
I
think it
wonder
might
if
progress
that's
sooner?
Just banks, it's a federal insurance, right? That's kind of holding us back
Yeah,
from that.
depends on how quickly we can build up the cannabis lobby to fight them.
Yeah, right. Or trade.
Is there any action going on in that direction?
The bigger guys are definitely moving that way. They're trying to push policy. Now you have like Amazon getting in line with it, and you're seeing like a lot of the bigger players that aren't in the industry getting.
I see
getting
unions
situated.
coming, trimmer unions. I see that coming too, which could be good or bad. Depends how it's run, I guess, like everything else.
Who's dictating the laws, or who's
No,
dictating
just
the
unions,
regulation?
like trimmer unions. You know, if they're represented by good people. But usually, you know, once something's been around for so long, it's whoever's at the top kind of makes the decisions. Like being here with BIW, come from generations of working there. My dad worked there his whole life, my grandfather, and seeing how a union was great, and then
The intention.
Yeah, the intention is exactly,
It gets
but then
corrupted by the time,
they call it the old boys club, you know. And my brother's friend was just the president of the union, and he quickly got another job. It's like, I don't know if that's public information yet. So
This will be on tape delay. Sure, don't worry about it.
But yes, I see it though, because you see all these trimmers. I didn't know, but trimmers hop grow to grow.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of talk about who's paying what, and I'm lucky. We're a small business. I have all my friends working for me, and we're all good people, and I don't lose anybody. But having to have multiple trimmers coming in and out, I'd want some sort of like standard education or a certification. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Would be cool. Yeah.
A certification for trimmers.
Yeah, like a
handling-
X many hour, like a tradesman, like a
safe serve type of thing.
Oh,
with
right,
a restaurant
yeah.
where you have certain standards for
right,
handling
right,
and
right.
cleanliness and what you're wearing and
Yeah, because going grow to grow, like we don't use any sprays. We only use bugs, and it's our grow is not state of the art. So I have a buffer room where we all have clothes and bins that are grow clothes and then our outside clothes. But then I'll have like Time Warner or like Seacoast Security,
Need
good
to
friend
get there.
Throw
Dave,
this
you're
on.
welcome for that shout out. But I had to get them in jumpsuits, and they're like, "What are you doing? Like, we didn't have to do this." And he actually put a protocol in his company that, and the CO2 company, I made them Matheson, I made them do it too. They would go to multiple grows in one day. I'm like, "What are you guys doing? Like, you're gonna literally put us out of business." And they don't know.
The inspector did mention, he's like, "You're in my first grow I went to."
Oh, cool.
So he was definitely on board with like,
OMP?
cross-contamination.
Oh, great.
We got
Yeah.
inspected, a week and a half ago, so.
I've
That's
had
always
3 or
been like
4
rule
conscious
number
about
one.
that,
Don't go in
where
2 grows in
we're
the same day.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
From I've always heard that from cultivators.
I mean,
I've always
broad
thought that.
mites and rusted mites can travel on dust particles. It's it's very rare. Like if you're going grow to grow, you put your clothes in a dryer for 10 minutes. The heat pretty much kills
Yeah.
everything, but still, it's a nightmare.
What is it, like 10 russet mites can take a ride in on one,
Yeah, right.
one root aphid?
Yeah, it's
Or something crazy
yeah,
like that.
something crazy. Yeah,
It doesn't take much, it just takes one,
It's
and
nuts too.
start
And so
reproducing
I was just telling Ben, we just had some insects in our mom room, and they were earwigs, pinchers, but it looked like broad mites. So I'm like under a microscope for 8 hours on a Sunday with Susan Wainwright, and I'm bugging her. She's like, "I'm at my garden." She's like pissed at me, and I'm like, "Listen, this could be bad." I'm like, "But I didn't bring any cuts in for over a year." And she's like, "It could be anywhere outside broad mite. They'll sense your flowers." And even a company that we base a lot of our ideas around, Green Life Productions in Las Vegas, Steve is running a great operation. Even he's like, "We have a state-of-the-art facility, and we get thrips every year on this one wall that's like sealed up tight." And if a building like that can let in tiny insects, you're never gonna beat it. And then talk about spores, and we could go on for days.
I think about the origins of a lot of cultivation spaces, and I remember, I want to say like 7 years ago, when I got into growing, it was 2014, and we grabbed an old garage.
Yeah.
And that was the worst move we could have done, but it was an old garage, and it hadn't, there were some areas that were not as well kept. We thought we cleaned them, but there's only so much you can do, especially if people were working on automotives there before.
Yeah.
You've got this dead space you can't get to. I mean, how are you really going to work on it? I know I wasn't alone in that. There were tons of people in the Lewiston, Auburn, and greater area that were, going to Turner, going to Green, trying to grow in somewhere. And it made me think about all the spaces that were closed down at that time, or abandoned. And so cannabis ended up inheriting a lot of these spaces, and
And a lot
some
of their
make
problems.
the store, some don't make the store.
Yeah.
But they still exist, and they're everywhere. And I think of the environmental issues that must be going on, or what the crops are like entirely.
I use an ozone generator. I don't know if you guys ever use, but it's
Your own generator?
ozone generator.
Ozone generator. Do the plants need to be moved out when
Oh
you do
yeah,
that?
this is
They
like
do,
when
don't
we
they?
got the
It's
space, we
harmful
took
for 'em.
out, we put in all of our new stuff, and then like anything living was out, like humans included, and we just blasted one per room.
They
and-
work well.
Yeah, and then from there you just be good,
Do you do that too, Ben?
We do.
Ozone?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
When did you get into using like an ozone as a
A couple of years
preventative?
ago, we'd post harvest. We'll run it for 24 hours, let the room air out for another 24, and then we'll actually bake the room too, just as another security measure.
How high does it have to get when you're baking it? Is 110 or so?
We get it
Something
up
like that?
there.
120, 130.
Yeah.
Do you too?
Couple
Do you
hours,
guys as well bake the room?
Bake
Yeah.
it, yep.
And it's about that number? Or
Yeah, I think there's like
12
130 for 2 to 4 hours, but you need to make sure every pocket in that room, so you do it for a long time, but you gotta keep an eye on stuff.
Yes.
And sensors.
It'll fry your
sensors
stuff
out.
fast.
Other than
I
that,
don't like to be that hot.
yeah.
Glenn, how's your grow coming?
Well, it's not nearly as extensive as what these guys have, but I'm just like a little closet king,
Are you?
I am.
Really?
I am, yeah.
It came out pretty good this year.
It did?
Yeah.
Yeah, I rely on my friends, specifically these two. This is what's going on, how do I fix it? And they always tell me. You know what's weird, though, is they were talking about, like, the full jumpsuits and everything. Both of these guys, the
Yeah.
first time I visited their grow, they had me stripped down completely naked.
And they
And
didn't even
now
let
I'm
you in the
thinking-
grow, did they?
And now I'm thinking, it was to their benefit, and now I'm just ashamed.
Yeah, we have it all on video too.
Exactly. Ha ha. Yeah, the branding guy naked.
How long before you came back out?
Yeah.
We're like,
Yeah.
all right, I can see you guys
Yeah.
again. What happened there? You've worked with all parties here in a different way. I'm talking to Glen with GH Design Company or
Yes.
Co? Okay.
Yeah,
Nice
GH Design Co.
Okay. You've been doing design for quite some time. We were talking outside a little bit.
Yeah.
Got into it maybe 20 plus years ago, yes?
Yeah, about 25 years ago. I'm old.
What did you imagine you were going to be doing back then? Who were going to be your clients?
I mean, I always liked the badassery of industries. Like, I worked when I was down. I went to college in South Florida. When I was down in Miami and Lauderdale area, I worked for this company, Alliance Entertainment, and I did work for Marilyn Manson and a bunch of print advertising for like Billboard magazine and stuff. And that was really my passion, you know, like really badass, edgy stuff. And then when I moved up here, I
And was
realized,
this about or pre-2000?
Yeah, just barely.
Yeah.
2098 or 1998, I believe.
Why'd you move up here?
A girl, and
Yeah,
and the
that always
climate.
happens.
I was
All right.
I was raised. I was born in Green Bay, so I'm a northern boy at heart, and you know, Miami and all that. It's good for a while, but I kind of missed the north, and I came up here on vacation, and I'm like, my God, it's got everything. You know, it's got cool people, it's got the ocean, it's got the mountains. It's where I want to be, and then I knock somebody up. Next thing you know,
We'll do it.
you know that. Yeah, that'll do it.
Where were you located? In Portland area? Or just
Yeah, Portland area. But I was thinking about this morning too, and I think a lot of what I've been doing is kind of followed my kids' interest. I got twin boys that are 22 now and a daughter who's 17 and crazy. But so I launched a company, Kids Crooked House, back in 2007, which blew up and went global. We were on John at K+8, Extreme Makeover, and The Early Show, and 90 million homes throughout the world. And there was Kids Crooked House, Russia and Ireland and UK and whatever, and it was awesome. And then my VP took off. She's now an agent for the FBI, still my best friend. But kind of lost interest, and I wanted to follow something that was more my passion. So I started getting more into the music scene locally with 207 brand, and that's how I met a lot of local guys like Spose and the Mallet Brothers, and I did a lot of work for all those guys. And then 207 brand morphed into GH Design Co., and then I started working for craft beer companies. We spoke earlier. I did the Bissell Brothers logo. I've done everything for Funky Bow, helped develop their brand.
It was about 2004, 2005 with beer when it really started, local beer. Was it when it started to make an impact?
I think I started in that later, like 2013.
Was it?
I think, Ben, when did we start working together?
2016.
16, and I think I had been doing craft beer for about 3 years prior to that.
About 3 years. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So, yeah, all right, just after.
And I
Gotcha.
dabbled a little bit with logo work, but the branding stuff really came with Funky Bow. And, you know, that's, we were talking outside, that's kind of my gig, is it's not just about creating something that looks cool. It's like, it's got to resonate with people. It's got to, and Travis and I talk about this all the time. And he calls me up at 3 in the morning. And
What else is he doing at 3, you know?
but but Ben and I have had all these conversations too,
Yes.
you know, about how the importance of, you know, it's like you could put 6 of the best IPAs in red Solo cups, and there's no way you guys could tell me whose is whose.
Right.
And it's the same thing, and nothing, I mean, I do agree, these guys grow some of the best fucking flower that I've ever seen in my life, you know. I'll get the Tastefully
We
Baked,
are
too.
surrounded by high quality product.
Yes,
there, there's
we
no doubt.
are. But, you know, everyone there, you know, when I started working with Ben divergenized me in the cannabis industry, and it was pleasurable. And then things started to grow from there, but everybody's like, well, the one thing you should know is we grow the best flower. It's like, Jesus. And you hear that, it's like, well, we have one of the best IPAs in the state. It's the same thing. If I put all your flower on the table, your best whatever, no one's going to be able to tell the difference, you know? So it's really about the brand and how you're connecting with the consumers. And Funky Bow's thing was that they're the flatbread pizza of beer companies. They're a bunch of guys out in the woods getting high, brewing some awesome beer, listening to reggae. That is their brand.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And we talked earlier, once they were able to communicate that not only to their customer base, but their employees and everything else, their following blew up because they're able to communicate that through their design, through their website, through conversation.
You brought that forward, though. You were like, I dealt with Glenn for hours and hours and hours developing the brand and what it is, and you'd be like, nope, dig deeper. And I'd send him shit, and he'd be like, nope, dig deeper.
Yeah.
Nope, you got to do better. So that was a big part of you know what we are as a brand and everything else, and what we represent.
Well, and I think you and I came up with Kind & Co. together.
We did, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
In what way? By name only or by image?
Like
by,
brand.
All of it.
Well, all of
Yeah,
it.
the tag, everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody that I work with, it's a relationship.
Hey, you
It gives
talked
you a
about
huge
needing to know
question.
the personalities a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, because
Yeah.
it's about the persona.
Right.
It's not only about who they want to be, it's more about who they are.
Yeah.
And, you know, in talking to Travis, for example, in Living Matter, he's so passionate about how he grows the product and it just made sense, and that kind of dictated the design direction for what he wanted. And Ben was just like, you know, I'm a fucking rock star. No.
Not at all.
That was
not at all. No.
You know, and then there's these two over here who are just clearly colorful and beautiful. So that's where I took their brand, you know? Actually, their stuff was like, we need this. I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do. They're like, okay, cool. And I did it, and they're like, and I posted on Instagram, and everybody's like, damn, that's fire. I'm
Dope.
like, yeah.
Very
It's
dope.
honestly, I love them so much because they just let me do whatever I want to do. You know, these guys, they're kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, right. For sure. I
I
can
was
see
just gonna
that.
say something, but I'm not gonna say it.
Say it, Travis.
But these guys, seriously, they're really like, you know, just do your thing and get back to us. And I do my thing, and they're like, wow, you know. I mean, I love people like that.
So do we. We enjoy working with people like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Where it's about trust and what they can do, what their,
More so
what their
letting
image is.
people who are good at something do what they're good at, and not try and
Yes.
steer it in any
Let the
direction.
artist
Because
work.
I don't. I mean, I know I did this stuff before you. I've learned how to use Photoshop and kind of played around because we didn't have the money to do it. We're self-funded.
You were going to do it on your own.
We did do it
Oh,
on our
yeah,
own.
our
Well,
first
a lot
one was
of it,
all
yeah.
our own.
Yeah. So from that point, it was like, well, he obviously knows what he's doing better than I do. So let the professionals take
Yeah.
over, and we'll kind of
It's huge.
do what we do, and he can kind of take that and mold it into whatever image it needs to have on the cover.
Yeah, it's like understanding like the artistic process of people, like, you know, our mutual friends are musicians, and I'd even name my company. My girlfriend named it. I've come up with 100 names, and they all suck. And
the
then
hardest
even
part.
the logo, I did a focus group of all friends of mine, all stoners that I thought were in my demographic, and I voted for one that no one else did. So I just knew that I'm not the guy for branding, and I went to school for marketing. So, but with Glenn, it was a conversation. I was like, I wanted gray. That was my one thing. And I was like, I want people to remember Living Matter. That's it. And I want it to be kind of hip and edgy, and you do your thing. And then he came back
Well,
with that, and it was fucking dope.
I will say, I kind of met you on Instagram.
Yeah, yeah.
As, you know, kind of the way of the social world
Yeah.
now. But that's kind of what dragged me in, is kind of your name was kind of pulled in the way, your process into it.
Right.
More so.
Right.
'Cause
And
I
you
follow
love
the guys.
gray.
Yeah, but I follow the
what?
guys you were talking
He
about
loves
out in
gray.
Vegas, and it kind of,
Yeah.
it has that same, you're kind of bringing the outdoors in.
Yeah,
but-
we were so Green Light Production, Gnome
Yeah,
Grown,
Green Life, yep.
Gnome Grown Organics, and then there's one other one, but it was kind of nice. Like Glenn, how he works is he'll probe you with questions, and he'll keep them open ended, and just give you examples of companies that you like, and then kind of asks you a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your brand. And I'm sure some people would love to write you a book on what they want, but I felt like it was just a simple conversation. And then it was funny too, because I was like, oh shit, like this could be great or this could suck, you know? And then every single time this guy delivers, and it just taught me like, you know what you're good at, what he knows what he's good at. Let him do his work. Let him do his job. And I take his word for everything. Like I've been prior to this business, I've been very like passionate about like what I like, but what I've learned now owning a business is it's not me. It's customers. It's people that visualize my brand, and I kind of have to rely on everyone else. And it was a lot for me at first, but I think he's a little rough around the edges, so it made it pretty normal for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I require everybody to take all their clothes off in the first week.
Yeah.
It's freaking payback.
Ben, you started this.
Right? Oh, we're going to talk packaging? All right.
Ben, you mentioned like it was a lot of the inspiration that Glen was able to give you, or not inspiration, but the kind of direction with what you had really no idea what you wanted for a name or for a feel, or did you share anything like that?
We started as Portland Cannabis Company.
Oh, okay.
And I came to him with that, and we had just like a hour-long phone conversation, and we vibed.
Yep.
And then he's like, all right, I'll fucking pick you up, I guess. And then we started to work, but you sent me like a 2-page questionnaire, something like that, and he's like, take your time, fill it out, and like I said, that took hours. I felt like to like really dig.
It's hard.
It was hard, and that helped really bring out like what I want the company to represent, who we are, what I care about, shit like that. And that's when he was like, no, too soft, get out of here. Like, and then he'd send you back. It was a lot of back and forth until we were like, this is the package now. It was good. It was all for the better and everything. I don't regret a day of it. But yeah, it took a while. I mean, I knew what I wanted and kind of where we were. I wanted to be a little bit hip and edgy too, but simple and clean.
Yeah.
And then we could build like the artwork that we've done on the back end because of that. But yeah, it took a bit.
It's stylistically, your impact with the Kind & Co. Logo is very font. I mean, it's font heavy in that you're suggesting as much as you can, and with Tastefully Baked as well. What goes into like exploration of font? Yeah. I know this is like a pretty straightforward, but I've always felt like in marketing and branding, font is huge.
Yeah. It
plays such an impact on whose personality you're dealing with. As much as like what you're trying to convey as a business. So
well,
it's
and
both.
some people will dictate, say I don't like anything this or that or to this or that, and they'll have some kind of ideas. And sometimes I listen.
Right.
But
Comes down to the questionnaire.
But kind of. But I'm definitely old school, right? Like. We spoke. I've been at this for a very long time. Photoshop 2.0.
Yeah, that's where you started off.
Like,
you said.
we're talking, 20 plus years I've been doing this, and there are so many fonts out there, and thousands upon thousands upon thousands, and I always find myself coming back to the core. The OGs. Like the original stuff, the Helveticas or whatever, because it's just classic and clean. And if you look at my design style, I guess, it's very iconic and clean, but also I could say timeless, because, their logos will be perfect in 10 years from now. If you start going with all these crazy fonts and crazy colors and all these different things, it might be cool today, but in another 5 years, it's gonna look dated. So I just like to stick with that clean stuff. And I always say my job is done when there's nothing else to take away. Like I like things that are really, really clean, legible. Exactly what it is. You're not supposed to tell a story, technically, or. I've had people, I want my web address and my phone number and my logo. And it's like, no, you're not following me. You gotta, I want your truck to rip by and have somebody say, that was Tastefully Baked.
Right.
Exactly. Because it's so
It would
clean.
be ripping by if it was Tastefully Baked.
Fast.
Yes, exactly. Now, I didn't do the logo for these guys.
No.
But I've taken, but I do like their logo, and I have that hat, and I didn't wear it today.
So you've been playing with more package design,
Yes.
if I've noticed
Yes.
that more. Yeah, it is. Oh, okay. So it's been solely package design in the relationship
So
for the most
far,
part. Yeah.
yes.
What
Okay.
about the like paint splash? Was that you guys? Like what you do, like all the design work on your chocolates, and the bottom of it having it printed on like contains THC was so cool to me and new. I thought that was pretty dope. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, as far as all the splatter and stuff, that's
Cool.
yep, all our kind of original design. But Glenn definitely took it up to another level.
Well, and I was thinking but to me, that's what you're known for,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Every single time I see one of your products, it's got that kind of just splash of color going on, and that's why I took the design in that direction. But it was also the sour squeezables, which is more of a watercolor type background. I wanted that to be more in the new design direction, following the splatter, but have more of a crisp feel to it, so it's more dynamic and it's more powerful. So
I was gonna say there's a lot more dimension, I would say, to the new packaging.
yes,
Which I'm excited for.
definitely.
Very excited.
But it also,
It has the traditional elements to it.
yeah, exactly.
The way
And it
we're
also,
doing
you
it.
look at it and you say, oh, even now, even if it's brand new, somebody can say, oh, that's Tastefully Baked.
Yeah.
Because they
It's
just,
consistent with the brand.
because it's consistent. Exactly. It's just basically taking all the elements that you've got and just baking a new cake with THC.
When you guys choose colors of your paint splash, are you thinking about the flavors in there too with the colors you choose?
It depends what we're making. Like with bonbons, for the most part, you want that to be kind of somewhat, I guess, representative of it. You can either also include certain like texture elements to your design to try and implement that as well. But as far as like on bars or something, it more so has to do with what colors work well together and how the colors are going to play off of whatever kind of chocolate that you're using, because that definitely impacts.
Yeah, I
color
feel
choice.
like I don't know. Was it on this podcast that Wisely Hash like explained he has like it's not a chocolatier, but they whip their hash because of a guy that came from the restaurant industry. That it's a visual, like it's like how you look at like treats or things, that if it's like whipped cream is like more edible, and I was like, oh wow, I never really thought of it that way. And when I look at when I consume your products, I love marketing, and I don't know, for some reason the colors, like if it's raspberry, there's always a dark red in your chocolate bars I've found, or most of the time, or maybe what I bought. And I feel like if I'm visually like seeing colors as I'm eating it, I can taste it better, it's all psychology, I feel like. It's really cool.
I mean, definitely, just as far as eating something, your first sense of taste is a visual representation.
Yeah.
That's going to be the first thing that people kind of associate with it. So to have it representative of it definitely is a plus.
Yeah, cool.
The bonbons have really been trademark
very
within,
good.
I would think, where I think about that color aesthetic, and then when I take the bite into it, and I've had first experience, and obviously I'm very happy about this. But it's been great, because I do believe there's nothing else like that I've come across whatsoever in a medicated or non-medicated way. So it's a high bar. I met Mercer, by the way.
You did?
I did.
Oh, nice.
We have something.
We brought some of his stuff.
brought
Oh,
some
no way.
avocado with us today.
You guys want to say who Mercer is and how that came about, if you don't mind my asking you to share?
Yeah, so Mercer is a friend now that we met via online, but he originally lived in Northampton, New Hampshire, moved 6 years ago down to Ecuador to start cacao farming. He learned from this ancient woman down there who had been doing it for a while, and pretty much just started this entire cacao farm. We connected via Instagram. He came back up probably, like 3 weeks ago now?
Not even 2
Maybe.
weeks ago.
But anyways, got a bunch of chocolate from him, so it's this really unique variety of chocolate. In particular, it's called Criollo. It's very, very rare because the plant itself is highly susceptible to disease, so a lot of people don't want to grow it. Also, the yield on it is not nearly as
half.
Yeah, it's about half of what you would get on other varieties of cacao plants.
Cultivators can sympathize with all this, right?
Exactly.
Don't go for
So-
those
so
strains.
That's
why we don't get those
We'll
on the
pick that one.
Damn it. Anyways.
So yeah, so he came up and kind of shared with us his passion, and I have probably about 3 different cacao varieties from him that I have to make some really cool things with, which I'm super excited excited about. But I also just brought some of his chocolate here.
Oh,
to
awesome.
Share the love with you all. They're also doing a mission down there called Save the Paradise because a bunch of the rainforests down there are being
There's
deforestation.
a lot of corruption with the mining companies.
Yeah.
They come
Yeah.
in and pay locals off, and they do a bunch of stuff they shouldn't do.
That gives them access to
So
whatever
they're
land
buying
that
up
they
a
want
bunch
to
of
grab.
land and protecting it from that because it's some
Oh, wow.
really super nice tropical rainforest kind of by the coast of the border of Colombia.
So they're working to, excuse me, they're working to protect their product, their crops
Yes.
as well in so many different ways. I hear that overwhelmingly on a world level too. It feels like we're really in jeopardy of seed and
And they're clear cutting
control.
They're clear cutting rainforests and planting like monocrops like balsa wood and stuff like
Right.
that are high profit, and they're just destroying the
Destroying
ecosystem,
ecosystem.
cutting the trees down with monkeys in them, kind of thing. It's sad.
And we never learned from the Dust Bowl,
He actually, that paper that's wrapped in.
Is this
made that
medicated or
from-
not?
This is non-medicated.
Okay.
This is
Non-medicated.
from Mercer himself.
Go to town.
This is a 72% cacao, dark chocolate from his personal stash.
Very cool.
This paper's made from the actual cacao leaves.
Oh, cool.
And banana
He's
leaves.
pressed it
Wow.
out himself at his place.
I love that.
That's really good.
But
That's so
the
cool.
boxes that he
That's
roasts the cacao beans in, he makes out of a certain type of wood that he grows on the property. So it's like a sustainable organic farm.
Very cool.
Nice.
Solar power. It's super.
Yeah,
Sick.
cool.
That's really good.
I've got a question for you too.
Yes.
Every single time that I've worked with you guys and any sort of communication, you're like one person. Like even if I talk to you on Instagram or if I'm talking to you through text, I have no idea which one of you
Sort of
I'm talking to.
interchangeable.
Yeah, because
That's
it's
a good
always. I know a little bit about each of you individually just through social media, but what are your roles? Are one of you the master chef and one of you is the slave driver?
We play sort of split roles. So she deals with the kitchen and the grow now.
I was gonna say I do. Yeah.
I used to. So before we were above ground and we were below ground, for lack of a better term.
Yep.
It was basically I would do all the cultivation, and she sort of went to work and did her thing.
That was a good explanation.
So we went to a transition point where certain people
I can see
with
the
certain
difference.
letters on their clothes
Yep.
kind of forced us out of the underground and into the courtroom, and then we beat that and got into the legal market. After we did that, it kind of
Thank you.
became we kind of put the growing aside.
Yep.
And then we started focusing on post-processing, and then she was doing some edible stuff, and then I kind of took on the extraction role. But when you start doing other people's material, you start
Yeah.
dealing with bugs and cross-contamination.
Sure.
So I had to step away from the garden totally, and I do all
smart.
I'll do all the lab stuff. So I do all the extraction and processing, and then
I do everything else.
she does everything else.
Everything else.
Everything else. He helps in here and there with certain things, but other than that, it's pretty much me.
And that's why you love me so much, because you're like, finally something I don't have to do. It just gets
Exactly.
delivered through a text message, and you're like, awesome.
But that is funny that you say that you don't know who you're talking to, because we're kind of like, I've always said that we're the same, but we're different. I don't, like, we think differently, him and I, but as far as like a person goes, we're very similar.
It's probably
Yes.
why it works. It's I've seen a lot of couples. I mean, my
Works the
girlfriend
other way.
works for us. It's she does great, but it's a few of my friends that were partners with their girlfriends or wives, and it's tough. You know what I mean? But it's nice how you split roles like that. I feel like
For
that's
sure.
what helps it work. Yeah.
We're there all the time, so we kind of
Yeah.
figure out a way to make it work.
I love that you guys de-wax all your stuff too. I used to, in the underground days, open blast. Don't judge me, but
we all
I would
started
always
same.
throw it in the freezer
start
with my
something.
alcohol. I learned how to de-wax way back in the day, and it definitely made shatter look better. Shatter or crumble? Did you de-wax?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to say there is a variation of that story I heard by Mercer. He went down to South America for surfing, not to be a cocoa grower.
That is
Yes.
true.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Yep.
And then he fell into
He
it.
found this little
Right.
this
Yes.
little
He
town.
was searching for the waves.
That's really cool.
And
You
then
can
found this
respect that,
little
can you? Not my
prestigious
friend? I knew you
little
did.
mountain town, and
That's why I wanted to bring that up.
yeah.
I met him and I had no idea through Walter, who's
Yes.
and he was in town for a little bit, and we talked for a few hours, and
Great guy.
it was really interesting. He also mentioned something about there's a seed on top of, or a shell outside of the cocoa seed.
Yeah, it's kind of like
It has like a gel or something of a different sort that he believes that should be the next direction, that a cocoa bean is sort of utilized where everything can be pulled. I want to say it was like a jam or something. He described it like that, where it was the sweetness that was going to be unique only to cacao. And so he said he wanted to, no, maybe that's not information should be sharing, right?
That's fine.
Right. Okay, we'll scratch that part. It blew me away. I was like, wow, there's another tier to this. So
Well,
I
it's
think
cool
that's
to be
really the cool
sourcing
thing, though, isn't it?
Ingredients like that, to put in the extra effort to go, like, you know, for us as cultivators, I feel like that's how we find our cultivars. Like, you know, I flew to California for one of my strains, but it didn't really turn out great, so it is what it is. But yeah, it's nice, and I feel like I resonate to brands like yours that put in the extra effort into what their ingredients are and are very vocal about it. I feel like there's a lot of quote unquote like snake oil in the industry, and you can taste it. You know, edibles. I can smoke a lot of flower, I can smoke a lot of hash, but edibles like 10 milligrams to 45. Once I pass 45, I am afraid of ghosts. You know, I'm like having a meltdown. Or I've even, when you throw up, I've overdosed. And it's like I was golfing one day, and I took some syrup from a company in Massachusetts. I won't name them, but they said it was 100 milligrams. I took a quarter of it, and I swear it was 300 milligrams I took, and I was like, what the hell? But you can taste the cannabis in your product. There's still a faint taste of it, but you can tell you guys really, the extraction process followed by what ingredients you use, it just knocks it out of the park. And then this guy branding it, it's crush it. Yeah.
Oh,
You're welcome.
sweetheart.
You're welcome.
You've done a lot, though, in the process, too. You take it down a couple, you go a couple more levels.
Yeah, really
than
we
typical.
kind of pair the extraction for what we're infusing.
Oh, cool.
And a lot of the stuff we'll use. I say distillate for lack of a better term, but it's basically an ultra refined THC that's been basically everything else has been taken out of it. So it's just THC. There's no flavor. There's no color. There's not anything left. And we'll use that for a lot of the stuff that's really a delicate taste that you don't want to distort with the cannabis, because the cannabis is powerful and it will basically overpower anything.
Have you ever tried like using certain cultivars or certain I don't like the idea of bringing terpenes in, but if you kept like a raw hash rosin oil and mixed it with certain flavors, you guys ever try like pairing stuff?
Yeah, we have. We've
Yep.
done that a little bit. And the other kind of debate that we've been seeing a lot is the full spectrum edible versus THC distillate debate.
Yeah.
So
What was interesting though too, and like in our last bonbon drop, I'm like, all right, so I'm gonna try and appease both crowds as far as people who like more of tasting the edible and not the weed, and people who want to taste the weed and that's really what they care about and whatever as far as the edible goes. I'm like, okay, so now I think I finally like appease both spectrums, because for the most part, I do things with a tasteless concentrate because I personally hate the taste of weed.
Right.
So anyways, and then the feedback I got was everyone really, really liked the one that didn't taste like weed.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so that kind of is an
then when
interesting...
nothing tastes like weed, everybody's like, oh, I want it to taste like weed.
Did it hit the same clientele for you, though, that would normally have had your product?
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like everyone like just me saying that idea, it's like something I dream about. But when I'm actually tasting a product, it's like I just want it to taste like whatever chocolate you used. You know
Yeah,
what I
that's
mean?
kind of our philosophy on most of the stuff and other stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of picking and choosing where to
Yeah.
use the full spectrum, because a lot of stuff you can decarb with the terpenes in there and really make an explosion of flavor, but sometimes it can really make the taste bad.
What about an effect? So like full spectrum.
That's the debate.
That's-
So does your digestive system handle it the same way
What happens
that
when it hits your liver?
lungs do? Because it has to go through your liver and takes that secondary process that gets converted. As when you smoke it, it's going
Right.
through your lungs into your bloodstream, into your brain
Right.
immediately.
My theory is sublingual. Anything that we can swish around in our mouth, probably a great idea. But if we're ingesting it, Why not
canceling
use
it out.
distillate?
Your stomach acid's going to destroy it.
All of
your
it.
liver's going to
Like almost all of
the
it.
timing of it. So
Yeah.
if the terpenes are being absorbed into your cheeks, for instance,
Yes, right.
because they're solvent, just like
Right.
alcohol would,
Right.
That's going to enact faster than the THC, which is going to have to make its way
Right.
into your stomach, into your liver,
Right.
into your bloodstream, and then through your blood-brain barrier, and
Right.
take the time to it.
So the timing of those two things is not.
They wouldn't be able to
at all-
come
And you
Coincide.
lose a lot of the you don't lose potency, but you lose a lot of the medical benefits. Your liver is there to clean,
Yep.
and a lot of people don't understand that. So I'm glad
I
you
think
guys touched on it.
I think it's a big thing that's just ignored. It's just
Yeah.
the whole factor of
Yep.
ingestion and which way you consume is going to completely
I mean, either
alter
way,
or affect
Right.
your whole entire experience.
or even what carrier, as far as a fat or a sugar, or
Yep.
How about to tie it into marketing? Like, so there are 500 milligram, 300 milligram chocolate bars, and then there are 100 milligram or 25 milligram. Do you guys market like flour? I feel like I'm struggling trying to figure out how to market to a broad spectrum of people because we're finding that no-till, I thought I had a certain demographic, but now it's like the diversity of people that buy our product is a little overwhelming. Is it the same thing with edibles? Like, are there like
Maine's
the heavy
tough.
hitters get me stoned? Or are
Maine's
there
tough
like,
because you have this compartmentalized market where you've got Portland and
yeah.
The rest of the
the
state.
seacoast, and then you've got Maine. So
Yeah.
you've got people that want high dose cheap products, in northern Maine and Augusta and up further, and then you have Portland, who they want like the bougie boutique kind of higher end stuff.
Yeah.
So to kind of make something that's a one size fits all is really tough.
Very tough.
If you make something
What are your
high
thoughts on
quality.
this?
Yeah, Ben. I was going to ask. That's
Pretty silent over there.
That's definitely what we experience. It's all over the place. It's really tough to put a finger on. We have a kitchen too, and we hammer out mints. People love 5 milligram mints,
Yeah.
but that's a certain demographic of people. But then there's people that want like 1,000 milligram chocolate bar. So you're just
Yeah.
like, I can't win. It's
Yeah.
And dose is interchangeable. So if you need to make a product that has a high dose, then I guess that's something you can do. But
Yes.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
can't make one size fits all.
No. You can
No.
go into a niche, but that's really tough to hammer.
And then you have the people that don't really want to feel any sort of psychoactivity. So then you're like,
Right.
okay, now I need to go build a whole nother product
Yes.
over here for those people.
Yeah.
Or like, I want like a sativa gummy. I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't.
Deliver that.
Don't we all?
How many items do you have on the shelves? I mean, you must have a ton.
There's a lot.
Sounds like you've got to cater to a huge.
Yeah. It's
demographic.
yes.
You've got to
It's
cover
very
as many
large.
bases as you can.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It's really, really difficult. Some people you just can't please. That's really what it comes
you never
down to.
will.
But yeah, like cupcakes, we'll make cupcakes, and we'll make a low dose cupcake, 10 milligrams say per cupcake, and then somebody will be like, I want 50s. That doesn't do anything for me. You're like, well, shit, because they're gonna go bad.
Perishables.
It's
But
just
you guys make a good amount of some like shorter shelf life products
Yeah.
too, which I imagine.
baked goods that's a tough
Yeah.
racket.
Yep.
It's really tough. We've gone through just doling out to employees. When it gets to like the
you'd rather
expiration
do
date,
that
you're just
than
like,
throw
here you
'em
go,
out.
guys.
Yeah,
Like
you have
enjoy.
enjoy.
Yeah, sure. I got some room.
But isn't
we've-
that the benefit of the squares of a chocolate bar?
Yeah,
Yes.
the dose.
If it's
Exactly.
if it's 100 milligrams or 350 milligrams or whatever, each person can take off as many squares as they want. And
Yeah.
Then you start running into the certain demographic too that cares about their caloric intake of chocolate. So then you're factoring into your head, now I need to give you more dosage with smaller chocolate, so you
Right.
don't have to eat as much chocolate to get your
Right.
dose.
Yeah,
So there's
or
that whole
just
other
It's
group,
difficult.
or just show
Yeah.
up at your place at 3:30 in the morning and do a nice workout.
There you go. We'll be there.
You know,
You almost can't try to please the entire.
You
You can't.
You can't.
You shouldn't. I don't
You'll
think.
go
It feels-
crazy.
yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
a way of
Your own
forming
way.
your identity too? Then, like what you've
Partly.
chose to include in, like, say, dosing or say product selections from each, and what you grow as well as cultivators. I mean, all fronts, because you're always going to suggest who you are, what your company is, what product makes you different than everybody else, or from a store end. And that's where I'm always intrigued, is like, you could be a store, I believe you could be a store that carried 10 strains of flour, maybe 4 or 5 edibles, maybe, 6 to 10 extracts, and you could get away with it. and still be successful. But I think you'd have to sell like what your identity is too, like what
Right.
you're comfortable, who you've decided who your demographic is.
Yes.
And then you could be I've got 30 strains and
Right,
you know,
exactly.
so on and so forth.
It'd be tough though, because the market's getting saturated, and somebody else can just carry all of those things plus,
Plus X,
triple
Y,
the
and
amount of
Z.
SKUs. So you're just
No
like, well,
differentiation.
shit. Now they've just be like, you really like it's really tough.
So you can't go outside of what your company can be.
You have to have it all.
Almost.
Yeah,
That's what I
yeah.
feel.
You
As
have-
far as the stores go, they're all. If you look at
have to
weed
have it
maps
all.
and stuff,
It's-
you gotta have it
yeah.
all, or they're not gonna.
Because there's so many other
Do you
brands.
have to have it all?
That's from what I've seen.
Pretty
I don't have a
much.
store, but I would think
It's-
so. judging
To
from
succeed,
what I
not
see.
survive. I feel like plenty of stores will survive, but to succeed and really like take your brand to the next level, I feel like, and that's what something that gravitated myself towards your brand is walking into your Wyndham store. I feel like you did a great job of the different demographics. You look at all of your apparel on the wall, and I'm like, I'm more of a, just a plain tee type of guy, but, I would rock anything in your
Nice,
store.
thank you.
And then even like what you're wearing today, if you want to, who's the company?
Oh, that's
that's-
Pimp. Yeah, I
that's-
didn't notice the sleeve here.
It's a collaboration with Monarch Press Collective.
Yeah.
She does, it's all upcycling, so she, thrifts the clothes and then rearranges them. She does all the stamps are all hand carved, and then it's all hand stamped.
That's pretty cool.
She does a really good job. But yeah, it was just, I don't know, it was a little side project.
It fits though. Like,
Something you want to go into?
yeah.
No.
Just,
Growing's enough.
Well, I think
It's
the
fun.
main thing is we've kind of all branded,
Yeah.
what you are as
Yeah.
a person. It's not necessarily like these other bigger companies are trying to like capture a certain ideal.
Yeah.
And I think, you guys are all sort of living out what you're making the products that you personally want to go
Right.
purchase or
Right.
smoke or consume or
Right.
stuff like that. I think
Right.
And
that's
that's
the difference.
yeah,
this-
and that's exactly where the brand starts.
Yeah.
You know,
What
like
want.
like Ben and I, we developed the core, the foundation of what Kind of Co is. And there was a time where you could walk into the store in Wyndham and everything on the shelf is something I designed, right?
Cool. No shit.
But he
Then I
took.
ran away. I had too much fun, and I was like, I kind of like to just.
but what he, and there are other designer collaborations that you've done, and you've done
Yeah, Dave at
label
Rosa.
collaborations, and
The-
other
the
T-shirt
labels are-
collaborations. I absolutely love it.
Well, it's
You
Friends.
know?
I want to support Friends too and get their artwork out there. That
art,
was a
yeah,
big
art.
start. Yeah.
But it's all still under that Kind & Co. brand umbrella.
It
It's
all
still
fits.
under your
Yeah.
persona
Thanks.
because it was done.
It's not just going
because
to get a
Ben-
T-shirt made to
Ben
get a
likes
T-shirt
it.
made.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
knowing cool
Exactly.
people that do cool things
Yeah.
and being able to kind of mesh
Bring 'em-
your,
yes.
your
Yeah.
ideas together and
Yeah.
make something that's cool that everybody can kind of like have
Yeah.
a story behind.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah.
It is that grouping. It is supporting the grouping of
Yeah.
it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, collaborations really. I think
It's
where
the new
it's at
competition.
at the end of
It's the new
day.
competition. And working with each other instead of against each other.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's
Everybody's got their niche, and you all kind of find yours and help each other push.
Yeah.
Forward.
Yeah, well,
I'm trying to-
that's the right mindset, and that's
Yeah.
like in the original days of craft beer. If somebody was low on Citra hops, they call, oh,
Yeah.
dude, hey, can you hook me up with a bag of Citra,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Totally, man, and there was, say
a
under
community.
under 20, right, and they all supported each other and everything else. As that industry expanded and as shelf space at Hannaford got more and more limited, people started getting more and more cutthroat. And
my experience with hops.
but what's kind of strange about that is I see it now on Instagram. There are an awful lot of companies out there who are slamming other companies.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the cannabis industry started where the beer industry is now.
Right.
They can sense the competition, but I think what you were just saying, Corey, is all the people that are true players, that are really authentic brand builders, whatever, they unite.
They're working
And
together, not
they,
against They're not cutting
because,
each other down.
exactly, because the other ones who are talking trash right now probably aren't going to be around in another 2 years.
They're on their way
Right.
now. They're
Yeah.
fighting. They're scrapping. They're fighting, they're
Exactly,
scrapping.
and that's probably why they're doing the things that they're doing right now, is because they're frustrated and they don't know what else to do.
Exactly.
You know?
They're in survival.
Guerrilla marketing.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah.
doesn't help, but some people do it.
That speaks a little bit though on a past lifestyle too, though, of
Yeah.
what cannabis was and existed on. You know, I was thinking about that. One of the questions I wanted to mention to you or ask of Glenn, but all of you, I guess, there was this look about what cannabis was pre when we became an industry or when we started identifying as businesses. If you think about it, you had that kind of 70s, 80s, or 60s, 70s, more psychedelic vibe to it. You're bringing it back in a different way here, by the way, with mushrooms on the side.
Yeah, right.
I'll tell you a story of my weekend off mic after. but then it took on like a new identity with hip hop, or as that started to progress, and we started seeing it as a different thing. Maine hadn't even established what its identity, what we were going to be like a brand in cannabis as a whole community.
Right.
Or as like what others outside looking in would think it should look like. And so by like some of the names that are suggestive, that are pretty straightforward to having a strong marijuana connotation without hiding it, without being colorful. It's sort of like a somewhat generic to the industry type of name you would expect from a brand. There's not that outreach to try and make a connectivity to the larger audience at play. And that's
more
where
mainstream.
I think I've seen from your designs this way of influencing not the entire market, but an opportunity, a segment of the market that helps give it legitimacy as a new craft in itself. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, agreed. And I think it's, as I see it, as these guys have a brand and a product.
Yeah.
You know, remove the cannabis play from it, remove the craft beer play from it, remove whatever. You know, who are you? What are you about? What makes you special? And how do we position you to be different from everybody else? And I don't care if you sell fucking soccer balls. You know what I mean? It's seriously, it's you know, that's the way you have to think originally, you know? I think if you're too stuck, there are people, and there are some people that have said, well, I want this massive, you know, freaking leaf, and I want cannabis to be the primary. It's like, dude, but you know, you're one of.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I have no idea how many growers there are now. Thousands.
That'd be hard to say.
Yeah,
you're right.
But I mean,
Thousands
you
is
know,
good.
it's everywhere. I mean, you don't need this massive pot leaf and whatever. If anything, you're kind of you're diminishing who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, come out as something that's unique. Make them question, like the Bissell Brothers logo. How many times did people see the Bissell Brothers logo before they actually knew what the hell it was? You know, and then they saw it, and then oh, that's Bissell Brothers Brewing. Some people now didn't even realize. After, God, this has been, I don't remember when I did that, 2012 maybe?
Okay.
Something,
Yeah,
but
about
there's
that
still
range.
people now that don't even realize that it was 3Bs. I said, yeah, it's Bissell Brothers Brewing. And they're like, oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know? It's like, you don't have to smash somebody in the
I didn't
face.
see that the first time I looked at it. I didn't. I saw it more alien-like to me.
Yeah.
I
which
saw
is
it
the connection.
first, and then I saw.
You saw a bunch
then
of cars?
I saw it on a bunch of cars as stickers.
Oh.
When we first moved here, and then I realized it was their logo, and
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And then I already had it kind of burned into my brain because I'd seen it everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I realized what it was.
But how perfect is that? Because then when you figure out what it is, it's like, oh my God, I've seen
It's
that
so
a
simple
thousand
that you
times.
overcomplicate it mentally.
And that's
Until you
exactly,
realize it.
yes.
Right.
And that's
Once you
exactly
realize
what I want for a mark and for a logo and everything else, that you could see that 1,000 times and not know what it is, but the instant that and then it's almost like the past comes rushing up to you.
That's where
Okay.
Kind & Co. was born too, because you designed Portland Cannabis Company's logo first, and I mean
Yes.
it's in the name. There was a pot leaf on our logo.
Yep.
And then we said, well, we got to step back, be less direct, and everything else. And a lot of people still don't know, and that's when Kind & Company was born. But a lot of people still don't know that the crown was modeled after a patch of trichomes. It's
Yep.
no. It's when you look at it, it's actually
I knew
it's
the connection, but I didn't know that.
and
and
that's where it
I
came
think
from.
Originally, it was just a crown.
Yes, it
Right?
was, but I said, no, we gotta.
No, we gotta.
Let's make
fuck
it
that up a little
yeah,
bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So that's where the uneven, points from the crown come from. It's
I thought that was just
modeled
him
after a patch of
screwing up.
trichomes.
No, that was.
No, I said no, change that. That's not right.
Of course, mine was
Got us
all
drunk one
equal
night.
and balanced and perfectly
Yeah.
set.
Yeah.
And then Ben's like, "No, we got to screw this up, man."
Yeah.
But it's how perfect is it now? I mean, in that.
Well, it's huge because we saw at one point carried Portland Cannabis Company T-shirts as right next to Conoco T-shirts.
Yeah.
The Conoco T-shirts outsold
wow.
the Portland Cannabis Company tenfold.
Oh, shit.
Because because parents are like, I can wear this without my kids knowing what this is because
Right.
it nods to
Yep.
it's a if you know you know,
If you
but
know,
not
you know.
yeah,
Exactly.
not just like that's weed.
With a big green pop.
Exactly.
It's
exactly.
huge.
I mean, and you and I, when we were younger, you'd see those T-shirts, at like a Judas Priest concert.
It was everywhere. It was
Or-
how you knew it.
Yeah, exactly. And you
Yeah.
were proclaiming,
You're part of a subculture.
I smoke weed and I love rock and roll. And that's, there was certain groups of people, but what's weird is back when I was in high school, and this is a long time ago, it wasn't until like later on in my scholastic career that I realized that half the football team was smoking weed. Doctors
and the lawyers.
everybody did, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is just me and a couple buddies, and don't tell anybody, But everybody was high,
Yeah.
And now I wish I could just relive those days, but
Yeah.
I can't. These guys grow. Their frickin' weed is way too powerful,
Yeah, you're right.
dude.
Yeah, you could
I
smoke all
can't.
night back then.
I mean, bring back that '80s brown bud, baby. Mexican brick. All Pat did.
I wonder how well that would do now.
I don't know.
Some people would buy it.
Right.
Some people still do buy
Yeah,
it.
for sure.
Well, I spoke to
Saves
Beer and Weed
Durbin.
magazine. We were talking about that
Yeah.
earlier.
Yes. Want to
what-
say a little bit more about it? I'd like for you to.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
I just want to tell you this
Sure,
story
sure.
about. So Sam and I, we're both. Sam smokes a lot more than I do, but hopefully his kids aren't listening to this. But anyway,
All the kids are listening.
So we talked about
our
this, and
demographic.
I said I would personally love to grow a strain that I could smoke and enjoy like a full joint, or pass a joint around with my friends and not end up in a wheelchair for 3 days, and we're talking about, okay, THC levels, and we could do this and that and whatever. Maybe it's a combo of CBD and whatever, but. So I started researching, and I started thinking back to our older generation days and stuff, and I found and I bought the URL for Richmond High Cannabis,
Oh, really?
and I was thinking, and I haven't. Now I let everybody fucking know,
So
but
it's too late.
but I was thinking it would be so great to come up with something like that that reminded me of high school, that was maybe less potent or whatever the hell it was about it, to where we could all share a joint and not get completely blazed. But these guys,
It's just travel.
They're just always trying to get you.
they could smoke like an entire joint at 30 plus right now and be completely fine. I cannot,
They
With some
want
hash in
more.
the
They
midst.
want it higher.
Right. But I was thinking maybe there's more people like me, who really did love enjoying.
Yeah.
I mean, because I loved the smell of it. I loved everything about it. I was
That
really
demographic
passionate.
must be.
I got to think a lot of it was more outdoor back then. Well, you think, and
maybe.
I only say that because
Probably.
it would have been what
Or
was
growing like a
grown
street
on a
light
more
in
regular
basement.
basis. What's that?
Right.
You're not
right.
wrong.
Oh my god.
Well,
You know what I
grew
mean?
up,
That makes
I grew up in
sense?
Wisconsin, and
Where were you
and
getting your butt? Oh, from Canada over
Mexico.
there.
I don't
I have
Yeah,
no
yeah.
idea. Maybe
Easters, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if
They
it was
answered
anything
for
like
you.
Maine or whatever. We would get what we called Christmas bud once a year, and we called it Christmas, the end of harvest season, whatever, and you got some nice icky sticky, and we were like, oh my God, it sticks to a wall. Like, we were so excited,
Gives me a headache.
But I mean, and there was plenty of ditchweed around and whatever, but I don't know. That was just kind of my idea for Richmond High, was to bring some low dose something back that I might be able, even if I'm the only one buying it for myself, growing it and buying it, it would make me happy.
It's land race.
It might just end.
It's old school strains are land races, and they're actually the opposite. They're actually super potent on one end of the spectrum. I tried bringing them back. One of the strains I flew to California for, MCon, was a Malawi heirloom crossed with LA Confidential. And I think the high is phenomenal. The hash doesn't yield well, but it's phenomenal as well. And no one liked it. There just didn't look like the
hype stuff.
The hype stuff. You
The
know?
Instagram weed that can
it gets you
pictures
higher than the frostier stuff, but people.
So it's the
listen-
bag appeal.
Bag appeal.
Bag
Yeah,
appeal is
it's
everything.
such bullshit,
Kinda-
but it's true.
Yeah.
And like as a passionate smoker, I don't choose what goes into our garden. I have to listen to the customers and the stores we sell to, and that's how I decide. But your idea, I think, is genius, and I would smoke that. You know, if you had Durban Poison, Acapulco Gold,
At Durban
any-
Poison,
any after-
that would be because I would love a
great.
sativa.
Yeah.
That would be probably at the top of my list.
If you got
But
the
I-
real deal grown right, you'd be geeking out though.
Yeah.
You'd be like,
Yeah.
cocaine in a joint. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, some mornings I need that.
Yeah.
I got to deal with all you monkeys all day.
Yeah. Busting your balls. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's bag appeal, and just to tie it back in, like differentiation of products. Like when I talked to Glen, the LM, I was just like, I just want people to remember living matter, and all strains. I feel like all cuts, especially with like tissue culture labs coming about, we can't differentiate ourselves. Like I have apple fritter, wedding pie, and half the Lewiston has the same cuts as me. But if they just can remember easily, like Bissell Brothers logo, what they enjoyed when they're smoking it, and if we can throw in a few other things of how we grow, then people would remember us. And I feel like it's not about like setting yourself apart, it's just making yourself easy to remember is kind of the way I went on that.
Well, and Ben took the right approach too, because he was like one of the first, man. I mean, you were definitely an OG.
Yeah,
there
for
weren't
sure.
many people,
Thank you.
and I've worked with, and I'm still working with bigger, Rugged Roots and Highly, and well, I mean, I work with tons of different people, but everybody knew Kind & Co.
Yeah. Right.
Everybody, because it was like, oh yeah, Kind & Co. Oh yeah, like they're doing it right, bro. They're doing it right, you know. But
Early on.
yeah,
A lot of people do that
early on.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Very
the first brand
early.
I've done.
Yeah, I mean, even this guy, you know. I
Like, I'm the opposite of it.
Well, I felt
mean,
like Travis came into the market later.
Oh no,
later
he
on.
did,
Yeah,
but
then I would've said the
opposite of him.
Right.
but he's had. I think this may be the first time that they've ever met. But we
Yeah.
talked about
Yeah.
Ben many times.
Yeah.
He's always had mad respect for
Thank
him.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you guys can hug it out if you want.
Off camera.
Cool. No Glen sandwich.
No, it's cool. It was.
No.
I just wanted to. So what drew me to your brand and your brand as well was your brand was like more of a lifestyle brand to me. It's very marketing centric, and I feel like your edibles bring in a lot of flavor into your packaging. And so with yours, I was like, oh, this lifestyle brand. It's, no offense, I was
These
like,
guys.
His product probably sucks, right? Like, oh, they put all their money into apparel, and then I used to buy his flower all the time. I'm like, holy shit, this guy can grow good weed and market himself appropriately. Maybe this is a good idea. And
Word.
and so like that's what drew me to you. And then with you guys and your product, it's the same thing. It's great flavor, great product, but marketed well. And I feel like there's so many companies out there that they're the great product, and they're like, I'm the great product. It's like, well, yeah, we know, you know that, but
Right.
just let the people
Exactly.
decide for you.
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of people that market themselves so well, and they put junk in their jars. And no offense to those people, but it's like, you know, we put, well, I would say you guys put passion into your product and how you market, and that's why I feel like it's a really, it's an honor to be at the table with both companies.
And that's the key to success, right there. You can't be a rock star and have shit product. You know.
There's a lot of it.
You can go. You can go a long ways though. You can achieve
honestly.
a lot.
Yeah.
Till they become a commodity, and then it's done.
Yep.
Yeah, the market will dictate that. There's two
100%.
markets. Everyone's like, there's a drought right now. Well, there's a drought for certain
You
types
either
of
create
products.
your own market, or
Exactly.
you're subject to the market.
Exactly, and if your overhead is high, then and you're a big boy, and
Top heavy, so
you
forget
know,
about it.
you're out. Yeah.
And I don't want to trash anybody, and obviously I don't smoke enough to be able to be a true connoisseur and to say who's as good and who's as bad. But I mean, from what I've heard, like Willie's Reserve is a prime example of that. high-end packaging, high-end name. It's everywhere. It's cool. It's whatever. But I heard the product is freaking horrible.
I'm not sure if I know Cookies does it, but a lot of these big brands market themselves well, and then they'll go and partner with multiple growers, and so it's like
It's
rolling
contracted
the
out.
dice. You know, you get either good product or not.
Got it.
And
It's contracted out,
Yeah.
more so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Is that what
Trying to
happened
get
with
it
in Mass for
Every
Cookie?
one of them, they do that.
Every one of them
They
do
come
that.
in, license them, grow these strains.
Okay, so it would be like somebody, say if one of these companies wanted to make an impact here in Maine, if they wanted to move in, like a name like that, like say a Jungle Boys or a Cookies,
Yeah.
if they wanted, they would never really come on in. They'd kind of,
They'd partner with
They'd
somebody. to
partner
get their
with
brand
somebody.
here.
they're already here.
that's the
Yeah.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Well, I saw a post that they made about Florida, something about passing stuff in Florida.
Yeah, and Cookies just came to Worcester, and he spelled the name wrong, which is hilarious.
Yeah, that was.
So many memes of that. But yeah, I mean, it's a long game and a short game. If you have consistency of products, then I feel like your customers will trust you. If you have inconsistency, you buy an eighth, and it's great, and then you buy that same branded eighth, even the same strain sometimes, and it's the opposite quality, you're not going to trust that brand anymore.
And I do find with those, because they're not about strain at all. Like a lot of these bigger companies like that, it's either you got your indica, sativa, or hybrid, and
Yeah,
that's,
which is
and that's it. And it could be anything. I mean, you know what I mean. So
And how it affects you, too.
Yeah, very much.
Right.
It's
Right.
individual.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, so I could see how that wouldn't work out so well, and it just ends up being.
You could tell.
Consumer
I
still
mean,
wants to know indica, sativa, or hybrid.
Yeah, they do.
Even though there,
I
is
really
it for
want-
lack of education or is it this forwardness of it that is necessary?
I really want to start putting terpene numbers on my packaging, and so people can associate. Because I tell people, like, you know, friends of friends or friends of my parents' friends, to buy with their nose. Like, if it smells, it's like incense or essential oils. Like when you go through these processes of figuring out what's good for your home, they say what smells good to you, and then they're going to use that. And I, in my experience, cannabis is the same way. If it smells good, probably going to have a good high for me. If it smells kind of like pepper, I don't like pepper for some reason. It doesn't give me a good high. It makes me anxious. But, you know, just education and putting things on packages to help consumers just like, okay, 8%, you know, beta-carotene or whatever, terpene. They will remember that. It's the same thing as I guess certain IPAs or whatever hops they use. It's there, it's available. And if I was very curious on what I liked, I could find that. But we're such an immature market. We can go so many places, and I feel like the smaller craft brands, especially in Maine, are gonna set the bar for what we should do as a country, because all these big like MSOs, like they're coming to mass. They're up here, but they're not gonna do well. And if we keep our market and our laws the way they are, then we can really kind of help consumers.
As long as we maintain craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
first and
that's
foremost. If we lose that, then we're really essentially everything
sure.
they were before.
We're just
Yeah,
swimming in
the
the
same.
big ocean at that point.
Yeah.
But as you were
Is there
saying
enough? Oh, go ahead.
about the hybrid sativa and indica, I think that's just more so what people commonly associate the specific effect for. I think it's
Yeah.
a pretty primitive
Yes, it is.
association.
Yes.
There's definitely a plethora of other factors that are going to affect
Yeah.
Even like internal things in your psychology, like, you know, what you're going through. Like, you know, I can, certain strains, like I know not to smoke if I'm having a tough time at the office. You know what I mean? Like, do not do that because I'm going to get more anxious. But on another day, like sour diesel is my favorite strain. And I can't smoke it right now. It's I have a lot on my mind, a lot going on. I like indicas right now, but if I go to the beach and I'm like on vacation, sour diesel, I'll be giggling like a child the whole time. But it's like, you know, you gotta kind of, it's such a situational and individual basis. It's hard to put like that. I feel like we just need to give the information on our cans or on our jars and let the consumers figure it out on their own.
It might be lack of having enough data, though,
Yeah,
at this point,
yeah,
right?
100%, 100%.
Do you know if there's any investment that we could make into, or as an industry? I mean, well,
to
if you
get
wait for it to
into-
be documented, we could be waiting a while.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's almost like, okay, well, let's just allow this.
And there's
to
nothing
continue to-
else like this. Like your endocannabinoid system is so individualized that to get data on that is on like a control is impossible. I don't know how you would do it.
No.
It's very difficult.
I don't know if we're asking the right questions either, or having the right kind
Yeah.
of data kind of forced into our hand. Forced into our hands, because
If that data
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
available,
Yeah.
you would have a bunch
We
of
don't
pharmaceutical
really-
pills with certain terpenes or
Right, they have their
cannabinoids.
certain composition, and here's the
They
the
tried
pill
it,
for 'em.
and
Yeah.
it killed people.
I think there's as much of a market as like what Glenn was talking about. I just want to get high and I want to pass it around with people.
Right.
As I think there's more of those people than there are the ones who are looking for the 30 plus THC. In
Right.
my eyes,
I don't know.
think.
I mean, but that's, you look at from the clients that I talk to about like concentrates, for example, they want their concentrate package to be as flashy as hell because it's the 20-somethings who
Yeah.
are picking all this up. And, you know, to me, and I'm not looking to offend anybody, but it's like, what I really enjoy about these conversations are the deepness of the strains and the aroma and the flavor and the growing of it and everything else. Whereas I think some of these, you know, the 20-somethings going after the concentrates, they're just looking to get fucked up
I mean,
as much
it's
as
a large
possible.
part of the
Which,
market.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're gonna
I mean, that's what I
you're
do.
gonna find that, but and it's not that I don't have
Yeah.
you know respect for the concentrates market or what, you know, it's not
Yeah.
that at all.
Right.
It's just, I think I find more enjoyment from the educational portion and the
Yeah.
flower and the beauty and the natural part of it. You know what I mean? Than some of these kids who, but I have, you know, I've tried, you know, what we got from you. I tried that thing.
That's
What's that thing?
that
I
was
want
game
that.
changer, is it not? Because I don't go towards BHO concentrates at all.
No, but I-
I had a couple hits and I was like, what?
My
May have just lured me.
So my son is my
Really?
product tester, right? And he's Bailey. He's
Oh.
he's great,
Oh, these
great
things.
kid, and
Oh, these are really cool.
yeah, they're gorgeous, aren't they?
Thank you.
And so he's my product tester, and he tells me who grows the best, whatever.
yeah, sure.
I
Yeah,
judge
thank you.
by flavor, aroma, whatever.
Don't need
But
better.
Okay.
Thank you.
we stopped in to see these guys, and we got one of these little hookups here,